We'll start it now. Growth is never by mere chance. It is the result of forces working together. A very pleasant morning to our heartful Chief Guest, our beloved Principal Dr. M.K. Marthi ma'am, and all the faculty members, research scholars, participants, and students of JSS Jain College for Women. Myself, Tasha, pursuing third year Bachelor's of Commerce Shift 1. Guru Shri Shantivijai Jain College for Women and IQAC, in association with Young Indians and Young Upcoming Versatile Authors (YUVA), takes immense pleasure in organizing 3 days international conference on the theme Innovative Drive on Digital Transformation and Financial Development in Global Markets, hosted by the Department of Commerce Shift 1. The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change. On behalf of our college, I would like to welcome you all to the inauguration for the 3 days international conference. We considered it a great honor to welcome our chief guest, Mrs. Raji Iyer, co-founder Apurish COO, Melbourne, Australia, Network Office US and Germany. We welcome you, madam. Prayers
Thank you.
is
It's great to be
putting
here.
one yeah. Prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God. True to this, let us seek the Almighty's blessing before commencing the session. Teaching is a great act of optimism. A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning. True to this, may I request Head of Department Dr. Gayatri Ma'am, Department of Commerce, to render a gracious welcome to our chief guest and to all the spectators. Over to you, madam.
Yes, good morning to everyone present here. Thank you in advance for joining us at the 3 days international conference 2022. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Raji Iyer, appreciate appreciation COO Melbourne, Australia, Network Office US and Germany, who have come today to share her knowledge. Every year, the Department of Commerce is honored to host an international conference. Even during this pandemic year, we continued on our journey by hosting virtual international conference for the previous 3 years also. And this year also, we are excited to host 3 days virtual international conference this year on the theme Innovative Drive on Digital Transformation and Financial Development in Global Market from 28th September to 30th September 2022. For today's conference, we have presenters from various institutions all over the world. And for this inauguration today, we have with us Ms. Raji Iyer. Raji Iyer is a entrepreneur, MBA from Monash University, Melbourne, Australia, graduated from Singapore with schooling from Good Shepherd Convent, Ooty. Raji Iyer is a fully qualified technology and financial management professional and COO of Appreciation with over 10 years of experience in leading technology, design, development, and delivery strategies to facilitate business growth. Besides being part of strategic leadership team, she builds and manages high performance team to enable delivery of innovative projects and products as a master, as well as a master and implement emerging technology concepts and tools. She has a track of she has a track record of exemplary leadership and has contributed significantly to expansion and success of many businesses. Over the course of her career, she has held several technical and financial management positions across a variety of businesses. She has worked with the cutting edge technologies and completed numerous significant projects for important businesses, including the first implementation of headless content management system for impressive technologies in the world. Her passion is fostering women in IT and leadership. And she has an MBA in Monash University and lead entrepreneurship studies from Stanford. And her areas is not limited. She has contributed her knowledge towards future of work trends, being leadership workmen in tech, challenges and opportunities, exceptional service delivery, be it technology or operational excellence, leadership and change. Welcome you. It's a honor to have you with us. It's a tremendous honor for me also to welcome our respected Madam Principal, M.K. Malathi ma'am, and Honorable Secretary Sir, who have provided an invaluable assistance in us organizing today's international conference. It's my responsibility to extend a warm welcome to my colleague, faculty members, participants, and students who are attending this international conference. Once again, I welcome you all.
It's time for the virtual felicitation. We felicitate our chief guest with the virtual memento as a token of love and gratitude.
Thank you so much.
Now, I request our chief guest, Mrs. Raji Iyer, to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be talking at an international event organized by. Uh, Thank you so much. I just had a look at the memento. It's very nice. Thank you. Firstly, I should say that it's great to be here today. I hope everyone can hear and see me, and the internet gods and the connectivity gods work for us today. One of the first things that I noticed was, starting off with prayers. I think it's been a long, long time since being in the corporate world, we've done anything which starts off with prayer. So it's amazing to be able to do that. I also picked up a few things as they were introducing me. It's always humbling to hear someone else talk about you. But more than anything else, they spoke about the only thing that's important in this world is like learning and change and continuous learning. So for all of those things, I think I'm really honored to be presenting at such a forum. Without ado, I do have a small presentation that I've put together, and primarily I'm here to kind of share my thoughts some knowledge, I would say, but mostly around experiences that I've accumulated over the years in working with technology, in using technology, in building technology and implementing technology, especially around how it permeates every sphere of what we do in terms of our life and work and beyond at this stage. So if you give me a couple of minutes. So yeah, today I'm here to share with you how we imagine the business and the workforce for the digital age. Primarily, as we're gearing up towards the shifting and reshaping of what digital really means. Today we'll be talking a little bit about what I know, what I've seen, and also about thoughts from C-suite leaders across the globe, especially in the top Fortune 100. From my perspective, I think digital literacy is perhaps the most important kind of literacy, past your basic literacy of learning how to read and write and numbers and things like that. So, why is this so important to know what digital is and being digitally literate? Because it kind of keeps you relevant. Everything's going digital these days, and everybody is throwing the world digital. But really understanding what this means to you means that you get down and get dirty and learn. So it's about keeping in touch with what's happening. It's about staying relevant. It's also about evolving. So over a period of time, things change so quickly to where we were with credit card payments to where we are with digital wallets at the moment. Things change so much, so it's about being able to evolve as well. So whilst you're constantly seeking digital literacy, you're also evolving yourself and what you learn and what you know, being a champion of information. So understanding where to look for information, how do you store it, reuse it, and also about learning and reproducing that information in contextually relevant places. So it's about championing really information, not data, but information really. Being and staying efficient, so finding the quickest ways to doing things. You're not doing repetitive tasks yourself, trying to find out how can you do things faster, quicker. And any of these things are really not just about your personal life. It's more about your corporate lives as well. So as you go into the workforce, digital literacy is something that you can't really live without anyway. Being aware, so knowing what's happening around you, how is the landscape shifting, what are some of the changes that are happening. Those are some things that digital literacy brings forward. Ability to communicate effectively. So once you can collect, curate, and reproduce information, you're actually able to communicate at different stakeholders at different levels effectively as well. And I like the last one. That's my own spin on the importance of digital literacy. It's about living a happy and fulfilled life, because if you don't have digital literacy, you are being left behind in many things. You're not able to access news just as fast, or banking just as fast, or fundamental infrastructures like making payments just as fast. So having more time to do things that you want to do in life really comes these days. In having a balanced and happy life comes from the fact that you need to be digitally literate to access all these things. In my mind, everyone talks about digital transformation, and it's kind of like the buzzword. It's been for the last good part of the last 10, 15 years, and it will continue to be as well in the next 20 years. What really is digital transformation? I mean, I've kind of map my thoughts on in simple terms. It's adopting technology where it needs to be adopted, right, at the right place at the right time. But the key thing about digital transformation, it really starts with why. What's the real goal, be it an organization or be it your personal lives? What's the real goal that you're actually opting or planning to go digital? What's the purpose, what's the goal? That's what actually defines a successful digital transformation. It's not about using technology at all. It's about what problem you're trying to solve. That's really what drives digital transformation. And digital transformation, although it's about introducing technology, but it starts and ends with people. It really is about people and change, and not technology at all. Digital transformation is very, very important to be done in baby steps. So you start off small, especially in a corporate sector. You take bite-sized chunks and you start off small. You try and tease out things to see what happens if I move that to an automated process. Does that solve my common purpose and goal? What's the purpose? What's the goal? Does this actually contribute towards solving that? Yeah, if it's a success, then we go into a next step, because you can't change the world in one day, because it involves people and change. And it's about finding the right partners, knowing who to work with, knowing who are the people who already have the knowledge, who are capable of doing this. And they're not necessarily the big brands or the people who are popular, but there are people out there who are niche subject matter experts who can partner with you at the right price, at the right time, to actually get things done. So it is about seeking and finding those right partners, and gathering feedback, and analyzing it as you go. As I said, bite-sized chunks, and you constantly have to keep looking at, is it solving my problem? Am I able to achieve what I want to do? And then you get feedback and you analyze that feedback, and then you have to correct your course as you start adopting digital tools and technologies. Um, from a scale perspective, you need to take baby steps, and then you need to scale from there. And you got to keep embracing incremental changes. So remembering that change happens in small increments and not as a whole. So there will be a lot of friction and frustration as things go along, but it's about understanding that change takes small steps to happen. So as you gather feedback and as you analyze, and we use things like agile and things like that these days, but it really is about chunking it down, making sure that you make incremental changes, you monitor those incremental changes, and you correct your course of action as you keep making those changes. So why is all this important to you? I mean, everything about digital transformation kind of talks about technology, and how great technology is, and where can you use tech, and how it helps people make, it makes the jobs easier and automates and things like that. If you're working in any sphere within an organization, you can't not know technology. Technology, I think, is right now an underlying premise to anything that you do. So it's not about just introducing technology into what you're doing. It's about new ways of doing things. As you bring in these tools, the process around those tools changes as well. So it's about understanding what the new process is, what are the new ways of doing things. You need to focus on the quality of the outcomes, and then automating quantitative work. So anything which is repetitive, which can be automated, but you're now starting to, the focus is coming back on qualitative outcomes, on how quickly can we make decisions, and how can we analyze the quality of these decisions, and how good are these decisions, how do we correct our course of action based on the decisions that we've made. So really, we've come back. The focus is really on the humans and their decision making, as opposed to their tasks that they're doing. So there's a huge focus on quality and outcomes. I'm just going to shift your focus a little bit to be, who needs to be in your digital transformation team? Who does digital transformation really affect in an organization? If you really look at it, it's just about everybody who needs to be focused on the transformation itself. If you're looking at using technology, there's technologists, your developers and architects, and people who will come in and install stuff and put things in, and plug in your computers. But it's also people, if you move more towards the right, it's about evangelists and implementation leads. It's about the marketers, and it's about the financial stakeholders, if you look at the bottom line. It really is about what value it adds to your business, and only people in the business who lead the business every day, who are in the operations of the business every day, that can tell you what the people in the top need to do to make things happen and actually make the digital transformation happen. When you introduce a piece of technology, there needs to be a budget, and that technology cannot be the super force that kind of supersedes any budgets that you have. It needs to fit within your organization's operations. So you need to make sure that it doesn't upset your operations to a huge extent that everything you do has to be rehauled. So you need to bring in incremental changes. That's what we mean when we say incremental changes. So it needs to be it needs to work hand in hand with you, and you as financial stakeholders in the business, primarily C-suite people, and also people who are finance managers, who are accountants, who look after the budgets, need to be comfortable and understanding what that technology will do. How is it going to save you money or make more money or solve a compliance need? So any new technology that you put in has to either save you money or make more money or solve a compliance need. So is it doing that? So from a stakeholder perspective, you have a wide range of stakeholders that needs to be a part of a digital transformation. So you have right from your financial team to your marketers to the commerce team, who are out there talking about the product, interacting with the customers and selling these products. They need to be involved, and their buy-in is just as important, and right up to the people who actually come in and put the technology in. Why is this again important to you? Adoption of these technologies are growing. So awareness and skilling is really key. You need to be on top of the game. You need to understand what are some of the new technologies that are coming through. We will talk about that a little later in terms of my thoughts on emerging tech, and how you can actually kind of start to think about what does it mean for you. And how we engage with the customers are different, right? So now we have boundaryless and more contextual engagement. When I say boundaryless, it means there's no specific time that a marketing message gets to a consumer. At all times, we're switched on, and we're always being sold things, no matter what time you pick up a phone and you scroll through your phone. So there's really no boundaries like it used to be. A shop needs to be open from 9 to 6 or 10 to 10 and things like that, because you're constantly, products are being sold. You're interacting with a commercial organization at all times, viewing their product, engaging with their product, and in fact, buying their product at any time that you like these days. So it is more contextual. Products are being driven to people more based on who they are, where they're at, and it's more kind of targeted these days, and it's boundaryless. So there's really no boundaries to where you can buy a product or how you can engage with a product. What does this really mean? As an organization and as people within an organization, you are catering to an audience that you're constantly engaging with no boundaries. So the way your product is presented and how they experience your product is happening all the time. So you need to make decisions really, really fast, and you need to course correct really, really fast. So you don't have any specific time to say, okay, I have another 24 hours before this is going to happen, so I'm going to sit there and I have all these data and I can look at it and make decisions. No, that's not possible. You need to have dashboards, you need to have analytics, and you need to make decisions on the go. So contextually relevant information is very important to you, and technology provides that. Identifying how you can get that is very important. Reporting is evolving, right? It's not insights. It's not just insights. It's analytical insights at the moment. It's not just reporting and numbers. You're looking at actually decision points that are being led to by your reporting. So you're looking at data which is contextually making sense to you. Streamlining of supply chain. So the commerce practices are evolving, where you interact with your point of interaction with customers, point of sale, where you collect money from them. All of that is quite boundaryless at the moment. Contactless payments, to where we used to be to where we are and where we're going to go with it. It's amazing on how fast things travel these days. So you got to focus on people and productivity and using them in smart ways, right? It's not about repetitive tasks. It's about qualitative tasks. Agile is no longer for technology delivery. When you're doing project management, when you understand and when people talk about agile, there's quite this notion that you're looking at technology projects that you're delivering in an agile way. Agile is actually cross-functional teams coming together to achieve significant business outcomes these days. So when I say cross-functional team, if the business strategy is to increase sales by 30% in this quarter, then you would put together a cross-functional team which would involve people from technology, people from finance, people from operations, people from marketing, people from sales. They'll come together as a cross-functional group to break the myth on what is it that we need to do. If this is the sales activity we're doing, if this is the marketing promotions that we're doing, what's the impact on the budget? and how much more revenue is that going to drive, and how does that impact the budget, and what tools are we going to use to continuously manage and measure these sales campaigns so that we can deliver together as a team. So as we're looking at, the typical silos of finance, operations, sales, marketing, and IT teams no longer exist. So when we talk about agile, it's about coming cross-functional teams coming together to actually deliver outcomes. And commerce as a concept is no longer just selling, and finance is no longer just compliance and reporting, right? Commerce is about now engaging with customers, customer experience. It's about product design. It's about upstream pushing information to get up the scale for product designers to see what the customers want, getting the product closer and closer to the customers and increasing customer experience. And finance is about helping these people make decisions faster and faster, and making sure that the budget's not blown, and how can we add more budget to certain things, where do we get money, is making those decisions in real time quicker and quicker. So that's what commerce and finance have evolved now to be. So what's an emerging technology? So we've spoken quite a bit about digital transformation and how we all need to keep abreast of new technologies and things like that. So emerging technologies are technologies that obviously shape the future, as the name would suggest. And most importantly, they're technologies that we need to watch. They're not technologies that we wait that it hits and then we kind of say, oh, let's get back on the bandwagon. But they're actually technologies that we need to keep our eyes and ears open on. We need to read about them, and we need to understand what this means for my job, for my skills, my business, my division, my team. What's it going to do in the future? They're going to transform the way we do businesses in the future. When I say do business is a very loose term, but just about every aspect of, if you think what we've gone through with e-commerce is a big transition, the next wave of digital transformation and emerging technology offers this huge wave of change on how we live life. So as a result, how we interact with people, and as a result, how we interact with products, and as a result, how we interact with companies. So if you flip that back around, it's going to change the way how we interact with our own team within the business, how we do our jobs, what do we need to do our jobs, and also how we interact with the customers. So taking digital to the next level, I'll use the cliched word, taking digital to the next level. So the primary thing I've always felt that given me good stead is about being aware. And the first thing that we do forget in the everyday grind of things, whether you're a student, doing submissions and writing assignments, going to classes, going to movies, or, enjoying life in general, or people who are going into work and, we have bills to pay, kids to raise and things like that. It's about, we lose focus on the fact that, the thing that we spoke about upfront when they were introducing is about how do we keep reskilling ourselves? How are we going to keep ourselves aware? Especially in this digital information age where there's so much information being thrown at us, where do we go for information? How do we make sure we read up? And it's very important we skill up. So it's not just about reading up, it's understanding what it means to you and skilling it up. And why is this all important? Why do we really even have to know about emerging technology, right? Here's a very, very simple reason. The way technologies have been adopted in the past is very different, has been very, very different. So if you really look at it, it's a very simple infographic. It's taken us 68 years to have mass adoption of aircrafts and just flight travel, right? So it's like next to nothing at the moment. We don't think twice about buying air tickets and getting on a plane. But it's taken us 68 years to do that. If you keep going down that arrow mark and come to internet, for example, it's only taken us 7 years to adopt internet. So the mass adoption of internet really has happened very, very fast in 7 years. And if you think that is fast, and we keep going up the value chain and come to say Twitter, it's been 9 months for mass adoption. And that's how quickly digital technologies can kind of drive adoption, right? It's been 9 months. It only took 9 months for what they define as mass adoption is 25% of market access. That's a huge market access, right? 25% is a huge number. And keep coming down to Pokemon Go, 19 days. And that's all it's taken. So when you're thinking about why is emerging tech important to me and why should I skill up, and there's your reason. Technology is not going to wait for you. It is going to happen. It is going to keep getting faster and faster. The time to adoption is faster. So as a result, we need to skill and reskill faster, right? So it's about the first thing the student was talking about, the ability to change faster, and how do we skill and reskill faster. We need to learn and unlearn. Whilst you're reskilling, we also have to let go of old habits. So we need to unlearn and learn faster. Technology does not exist in isolation, right? So it's kind of impacts everything that we do. What's happening at work and toolkits that you're using in a work sense, in a work environment, kind of come out and also impact your everyday life. So our lives transform. We either transform and adopt, or we get left behind. So that's probably where we're. And I know it sounds very ominous, and we're talking about it like a race and things like that. But in my experience, what going to university and studying in university and being lecturers and teachers and all those frameworks, they're actually preparing you for this really, really well. What they're preparing us for is to be able to skill and reskill faster, learn and unlearn faster. So all the things that we're doing in a university sphere, and I've constantly gone back to uni time and time again, is to get these frameworks that will help us skill and reskill and learn and unlearn. And that is what learning really gives us, is to how to learn and unlearn fast. How do we learn and assimilate? And it's not rocket science. It's not something that we're not born with. It's just about things that we need to keep tapping on a regular basis. So emerging tech is really important, and it is something that we can easily get on top of too. So looking at how the C-suite people, the CFOs, the CTOs, and the CIOs kind of view emerging tech is they're worried about the speed of tech change, right? Because with the speed of tech change, the companies and the people will have to adopt to that as well. And there's always a gap between how fast technology changes happen and how quickly companies can adopt it. And it is almost like a race. They feel like they're getting left behind in the race. And they also recognize that the changes in technology will be disruptive in the next 5 years. And this is kind of in 2020. So between 2020 and 2025, I think the world has seen a big shift with COVID and how we can go digital. What we're doing now, the whole virtual conferences is a testament to it. 4 or 5 years ago, this was very, very rare and unheard of, but we're able to do this now. So there's no boundaries to sharing information and knowledge. So they are worried about it. They're worried, and they are thinking through how they will map to it. So some of the key technologies that we need to keep our eye on, artificial intelligence. Sure, it's been spoken about everywhere, and everyone kind of gets the spear on what artificial intelligence is. It's about building intelligence into data sets so that you can get the right information at the right time. Augmented reality is the visualization of those data sets at the point where you need it to be. So you're augmenting your real life with virtual or digital data and content where you need it to be. Blockchain, about decentralizing how data is stored and served and how transactions are taking place. Drones, in terms of the accessibility in how you can get things done faster at remote sites, get those data sets curated and collected and curated faster from remote sites. Internet of Things and how we're all connected, how things can happen very quickly, and how do you control devices. Intelligent automation is about making sure that the right data sets are being published at the right time. Virtual reality is about putting yourself in a virtual scenario or simulation to understand and learn and explore concepts, or to kind of simulate areas of danger and high security areas, to kind of learn what would you do if there's a fire, what would you do if you were going to be in the defense forces and things like that. So kind of bringing you back into a fully immersive environment to learn new things. And 3D printing, that's a game changer. And 3D printing, as we know, from printing body parts to printing car parts and things like that, kind of is revolutionizing how merchandising and manufacturing is going to look like. These were some of the disruptors in 2020, right? So the digital reality, on how we're going to experience with the digital world, where are we going to experience it? Cognitive, in terms of what is it that is going to make sure that you get relevant information through whether it's machine learning, and then your response to that digital world, how is that going to be managed, measured, and then you get a feedback. And blockchain is about how are all these experiences going to be stored and served, so it's decentralized, and it's almost not concentrated as it is at the moment. So these are some of the concepts that have been shaping the last 3 years and will continue to shape in the next 5 to 10 years. So how can we stay on top of these technologies, right? So there's quite a number of people who produce these research materials, these articles and things like that. I personally gravitate towards either Forrester or Gartner or Forbes because they kind of have this holistic approach on not just technology but also how enterprises in a global sense are going to adopt this technology. So from an emerging tech trend, they publish what's called this hype cycle, right? So you talk about where are different technologies placed in the hype cycle. And if you haven't seen the hype cycle gives you a holistic view on where is a technology placed, how is it going to track, and what does it mean for you. So, for example, if I was going to be working in the Web3 sphere in 10 years, I know that Web3 is right on the peak of inflated expectations. So the early innovators are working through this, and there's a lot of work that's been done in here, and it's going to be 5 to 10 years, as you can see, before adoption really starts to hit. So you'd start to think through what is Web3, what does it mean for you, what does it mean for your jobs, how are you going to skill yourself up on it, so that by the time it's in the next 5 years, you kind of are in a good position to go for those Web3 jobs, or start a Web3 company, or work in Web3 teams. So really, you got to think about taking these things into what does it mean for you, what does it mean for your skill set, what does it mean for your future job prospects. So that's probably one of many ways to look at the hype cycle. From an enterprise perspective, we use the hype cycle on how do we make products? What are some of the underlying technology changes that's going to drive towards building digital products? What does NFT mean for us now? How do we use NFT in our product sphere? Is that something, when you think about NFT, it's really in the 2 to 5 years span. It's not that far out. So if you are working on digital experience products, you would be looking at how NFT integrates with your digital experience product. What do we need to do? What are some of the toolkits out there? How do you build NFTs? So this gives you a thought framework and a skilling framework. So some of these research really, that's what it drives towards. And here's some hype cycle for digital commerce. So what we saw was emerging technology trends, so which are some fundamental technology infrastructure trends. But this is one very specific to commerce itself and how commerce is going to kind of evolve over the next, really, if you look at it, 20 years. Some of them are greater than 10 years and things like that. As a uni student, I'd be really looking at AI and how digital commerce is going to shape up, because that's the 5 to 10 years mark. I'd be looking at immersive commerce. What does it mean for me? How do I get skilled up in it? If you are planning to be a digital marketer, I'd be looking at what does immersive commerce really mean? How do I skill myself up? If you're planning to do data analytics, I'll be looking at digital shelf analytics. How do I skill myself up for that? If you are running a company which is doing digital marketing, I'm probably thinking about digital experience on how do I get the toolkits or the skill sets required to be pushing more digital experiences out. So those are some of the things that these kind of research papers really get us thinking about. The other thing on what it means for us as individuals, as the job force, or people who are going people who are in jobs, people who are working in corporates, what does it really mean? So the way that things are evolving, 50% of us will need reskilling by 2025, right? And we're not talking about continuous skilling, we're talking about reskilling. So it's like a fundamental shift in the way we approach work is going to change. So there's going to be a huge shift between what machines are doing, and we're not talking about machines as in the movie types, robotics and things like that. We're just talking about what digital does now, in terms of robotic process automations and artificial intelligence, and how they shape what we need to do as humans from our skills perspective. So there's a huge shift in the division of labor, and as more and more jobs emerge as well, this doesn't mean that the jobs are going to go away. This doesn't mean humans are going to be out of jobs. This just means the nature of what we need to do, what we need to learn, how our jobs are going to be is going to be different. So new jobs are going to emerge, and the new jobs are going to require different skill sets on how we interact with algorithms and machines and computers and digital sphere and things like that. So it just really means the whole reskilling that we need to do is going to follow how digital technology evolve. So as humans, as people in the workforce, what we need to do and what is important for us changes. So the rise of automation really mean there's going to be a huge focus back on what humans do best, right? There's a good reason, there's no way we can replace humans in any jobs. In terms of, you can't do away with humans, because there are things that we do that's really, really important. So, and those are the things that are going to come back into focus. The key traits and skills that we are actually a lot of 99% of us are born with are going to be in focus. So things like communication skills and how effective can we do storytelling, and how can we get a group of people together to collaborate, how do we motivate each other. Those are some of the things that are going to come back into play. Listening skills, right? It's about listening to understand and not listening to respond. So those are some of the basic skills that we really need to hone upon, that we've lost over the last 20, 30 years. Critical thinking skills. It's no longer going to be about how do I prepare a spreadsheet. It's going to be about, I have all this data in front of me. What's the decision making that I need to do? How quickly can I make the decision? What other data sources do I need? Where do I go for analysis? And critical thinking on systems thinking on what do these decisions really mean? Working through tools to understand, if I do this, this is the downstream impact. So really wearing your critical thinking hat. And interpersonal skills is how we relate with each other. How can we work together well? How do we problem solve as a group? Because when you're applying your critical thinking hat, you're also kind of masked by the fact that you run the risk of just having one side of information when you make a decision. So you do have to bring those cross-functional teams together for decision making. So what do you need is interpersonal skills in how you relate to each other. How can you have a meaningful conversation with someone to solve a problem jointly together? And the things that are not going to be in demand, or things that are actually going to start to taper off, are memory skills. You don't have to remember dates. You don't really have to do any calculations, quick calculations or mental math and things like that. It's great. The reason why we need to do mental math is because it kind of tunes your brain and gives you framework on how to think and learn. But just as skills themselves, the memory skills are tapering off. Computer tech skills and how you need to operate computers, that's going to be second nature for us. So those skills are tapering off as well. It's as surprising as it seems. Basic computer literacy is no longer a key skill set and will continue to decline. And quantitative skills, because we're not going to be doing any reporting, we're not looking at analyzing any reports anymore, and of course repetitive tasks, filling up forms and data entry and things like that. That's already kind of on the way out at the moment. The days when I was in university and I was doing accounting, the double entry system and writing journal entries and how ledgers are written and managed, and it was all handwritten for us, right? So, and when I came to the workforce, between the time I was in high school to the time I was in uni to workforce, I was already using accounting tools. So I no longer even have to remember any ledger entries or double entry system, debits and credits and things like that. Never had to remember it, because those were not what my skills were for. My skills were more around how do I extract reporting from what was done. In 2025, the top 10 skills, not very different to what we've spoken about, is analytical thinking, active learning. I'm not saying this, the World Economic Forum is saying that. Complex problem solving, they're all human skills that we intrinsically have and that we're born with. Critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative. This is by far such a key skill, because as things evolve and change, the kind of problems that we deal with change over time. So how we solve new problems, people say thinking out of the box, is just as much initiative, that you need to have the ability and the intention to want to learn more and want to solve more problems, and also have the creativity and originality to think through and find out new ways to solve problems. So that by far to me stands out as something that I look for when I engage with people, is really creativity, originality, and initiative. If you've got initiative, you can learn anything, unlearn anything, and solve any problems. That's a very powerful skill. Leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control. Where do you use it, how do you use it? Technology design and programming, not everyone needs to have it, but if you are going to go down a coder kind of job, it's such a core thing. And we're not talking about using programming tools, we're talking about fundamental ability to write algorithms and to write a piece of code. It's two different things. People can use Adobe, people can use different toolkits that are coming out, but writing fundamental algorithm and coding, it's such a key skill, and it's a very, very important skill, because these toolkits that we use come from those algorithms. Resilience and stress tolerance and flexibility, that again stands out to me, because being resilient and managing your life and work balance in such a way that stress is something that you manage and you not deal with. So at times when you're feeling stressed, you know what you have to do. And it's not about not working or shirking work. It's about having that work-life balance on good food, good exercise, good people around you, and also the ability to persevere and keep saying that when I'm hit with a roadblock, I'm going to keep going through. Reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. So these are some of the things that I'm looking at, and everybody should be looking at, in terms of ticking those boxes to say, okay, how do I equip myself to be a better analytical thinker? And these are not some things that happens in a linear way. You read, you learn, you go back to uni to reskill yourself on some frameworks and thought processes, and then you keep putting that to practice, whether it's about playing little games every day that kind of gets you thinking going, or whether it's about putting yourself in places where you're challenged to make decisions constantly. So these are things that we need to create for ourselves to make sure that we're staying on top of these skills. So the COVID-19 pandemic, it's kind of, everyone knows we've changed how we work. It's kind of broken down all the boundaries, right? So now we have talent that we can access globally anywhere, and everybody, the world is a much smaller place. With all the digital technologies that are there, and how we interact and how we get together in Zoom meetings and right now and things like that. But what it has also done is it's taken away the people to people relationships on how we build. As much as digital is key, person to person interaction and people to people relationship cannot be replaced. So that's just as important. So the long-term trust and cohesion on how we work together has taken a hit as a reason. So what reskilling would help us do is, how do we bring together a group of people and help run things and build trust? So those kind of activities are going to be really, really important.
That's a requirement.
But when we're doing Adobe sign, it's there in that certificate that that person has only signed.
Okay.
So then
The witness is
not required, no? Because here it particularly says advocate, solicitor,
So,
CA.
sorry, I'm just hearing some background noise. I'm not sure if anyone's talking to me, or should I just continue along? But I will continue along. And this is another thing that I'm very passionate about, the gig economy. When I say gig economy, it's about the fact that the future of work is very different. As we saw, the skill sets required are going to be different, but it's also going to be about the fact that people are no longer going to be tied to one job, one specific role, and this is what I need to be doing. So, we call it freelance work at the moment loosely, but the gig economy is about having a workforce that you can tap on to solve specific problems at specific time. India is actually leading the way in terms of how the future work is being shaped. So right now, I know there's a huge piece going on about people moonlighting when they're in their current jobs and things like that. But that really is going to shape over the next 15 to 20 years on how people access work. They're no longer going to be subject matter experts in one single piece of work, but they're going to be problem solvers who will be brought in to do one specific piece of work, and that's what they will do, and then they will go away. And the workforce will have the option and the choice to pick projects that they want to work on, and how they will approach that project, and how they will solve that problem. So it's more going to be a skill based approach rather than a job and a position based approach. So it's going to be about, this is the skill I need, and this is the project, and this is the outcome that I need. So it's a lot more going to be fluid. But what it does offer is this fantastic flexibility for both the enterprises and the workforce to come together when they want to, how they want to, and decide whether that's the right fit to do. So the shackles are off. And that's what more is going to be going towards. With that comes a whole set of issues around trust, around compliance, and also around systems and tools that will help manage this better. And from a tech perspective, you're going to see all of that evolve. And what we're seeing with things like Fiverr and freelancer.com is just the tip of the iceberg on how that's going to evolve. And people are key, and these are some gig economies case studies that I have and people that I've worked with. We have a whole bunch of team who are based in India, in Spain, and in Thailand, and they come together as a cross-functional group to solve problems every time. And we've been doing that for a good part of 7-8 years, right? When you think about gig economy, we're not talking about people who come in, they'll do a project and that's it. They're here for 2 months, they're not there. And it's not about working on the beach. It's not about, going where you want to. And it's not about you choosing what you want to do and when you want to do, but it's about all of that together in a meaningful way. It's about building trust with the corporate or the enterprise. And it's about consistently delivering value, the enterprise delivering value to the worker delivering value to the enterprise. And it's about that relationship, agreement, and bond that they have that fosters over a period of time. So this way, we are able to actually get the best minds who will come in and solve problems, but they're also gone working on other projects outside, which brings in new knowledge that we won't have as an organization. If I had a full-time employee, in which we do, working on something all the time, we don't get the refreshment that people need when they go out and do other projects. So the skills that they bring in as a result of that, challenging our status quo, thinking about innovation, thinking about problem solving, is amazing. So this is a small example of how the gig workforce will evolve over time. And it's about, again, as people going into the workforce, it's about being aware of what this means to you. This is not for everybody, but if it is, it's about skilling and it's about building trust with those corporates. At the core of technology is people. I believe that there's no people, there's no technology. People enable technology. They enable change and transformation. You need them. People build and propagate culture. So without values and culture, there is no organization. And people are fundamentally the drivers of value and culture within an organization. So people bring forth innovation. So you want people to solve problems, to bring new ideas and new ways of solving old problems, and new ways of solving new problems. And that all comes from people. People create jobs, they evolve jobs, and fundamentally, people buy from people. We can go online and buy all these things. Should something go wrong, we want to talk to somebody, and whether it's through a chatbot or whether it's through a phone call, we need people to solve problems. So we still, as humans, we need that human interaction, and people buy from people. Especially enterprise sales are at the back of relationships. So people do buy from people. So whilst technology is the superpower, if people are not on board with it and don't know how to use it, you're going to stand there scratching our heads as in, why doesn't this work? And, why hasn't the change been phenomenal? And why haven't we saved $1 gazillion as a result of it? So this is a summary of the Fortune 100 CFOs. What are they really thinking about the digital world? They all unanimously, and this was done in 2022 very recently, they all unanimously agreed that everything's being labeled digital, it's being overused, and there's not many cases of deep understanding on what digital really means. Key aspects of being digital is having real-time contextual data for decision making at the right time to the right people with strong analytics to underpin it, and those analytics will have to evolve over time. So you can't run some analysis and then leave it up there. It changes over time. Many times enterprises end up having more data gathered than being used. So there's so much value that's still unlocked from a data science perspective, and data sets that are sitting within enterprises that are still yet to be tapped on for more meaningful outcomes. And there's also a strong disconnect in the mapping of processes to real outcomes, right? So it kind of dilutes the digital efficiency. So people who at an operational level who are actually doing the job not necessarily are consulted when new tools are being rolled out. So the mapping of what really needs to happen to what ends up happening when you put a new tool in, there's a disconnect. So really the value of going digital is not being realized in many cases. The finance function is by far going to be a step ahead of any other commerce function, right? If you look at the value map in an enterprise, to analyze, predict, and simulate all parts of businesses quickly and consistently, and provide that information to whether the C-suite people or operational leaders for better decision making is going to be key. So the finance function, whether you're talking about management accountants or auditors, the whole shaping on how they're going to work, what they're going to do is going to be so important. They're going to be the underlying strong foundation, and they've always been, but in a more data-centric world, they're going to be more of strong foundation that's going to drive the enterprise. Data scientists and analysts are not isolated. So as we spoke about earlier, I was mentioning, they're going to sit hand in hand with every finance and operations personnel around the business, so that they can unlock the power of data, right? So the data scientists and IT people can't sit somewhere else and then be churning out this analytics that doesn't make any sense. They're going to have to sit hand in hand with the actual team doing the job to make sure the actual digitization value benefit is being realized by that team. And then there's a hiring for skills. So we spoke about that quickly. So that we need the ability to adapt quickly. So that's going to be more important for CFOs. The inherent need for real-time contextual information. So it's going to be how quickly can I get information to make decisions, and I need it when I need it, and being able to get that to the right time, right place, to the right person. And I can't stress enough on this contextually relevant information or data being presented in an enterprise. That's going to be the focus, and they're all working towards that. And that's why data science is such a key skill set. Not the only skill set, but it's also a key skill set. The idea of no wait, because there's no time to wait to make decisions. Finance people are going to be at the top of the value creation in different shapes and forms. They always have been, and they always needed to have been in terms of making any decisions within the business. But with technology, it's getting more and more rampant that finance needs to be leading any technology design and delivery within an organization. Agility of the core business performance, rapidly changing environment. So you're talking about continuous marketing and rapid decision making, right? So those things mean that as a business and as a person working in a business, agility becomes one of the key skills. We got to be prepared for change. Technologies change all the time. Learning, unlearning, and reskilling. People is again, and I always talk about that. It's a passion of mine. People are the core of any change. People are at the core of any business, and any change. People prefer to talk to people as much as everyone thinks that the conversations and the social connections we make can be digital. But even in enterprises today, and the trend will continue, that people are still the core. People will want to talk to people, and people are required to remove roadblocks and problem solve. And there's also this concept now, and again, Earth being a new shareholder in our boardrooms, and it's constantly evolving now. So we need to think about the planet, and as a business, what impact we have on the planet. How do we reduce that impact? What's the value for the planet as a shareholder. The different shareholders we have investors, and we have CEOs, and we have different stakeholders that we build value in the business for, that they reap the benefits on. And we need the planet to be in the boardroom now, because if we plan to live here longer and have a sustainable life and a happy life longer, for ourselves and for our children, I think the planet needs to be in the boardroom. And that's a concept that's also evolving very fast. So sustainability and study of sustainability and green initiatives and what it means for the corporates is such a key thing to be skilling on as well. I just want to take a couple of minutes about my own personal journey, and everything that I've said today kind of comes from my personal journey as well. So I started off my career I studied in Singapore, as Dr. Gayatri very nicely mentioned earlier, and I did business information systems. But I was working in a company that made software accounting packages for logistics companies, and they were making, and I really found numbers and accounting interesting. So I went back to uni and I studied and accounting and finance. I did a bachelor's again in accounting and finance. So I was working in accounting. I was working with accounting packages, and then I moved to finance. I did a lot of finance work, and then I moved to operations, which was the way the career progressed was very interesting, because technology gave me the strength that I needed to problem solve. When I was an accountant, I built reports because I understood technology and I knew what technology can do. I looked at tools that were available and got tools and built reports that helped my cause. And from there, I moved to finance, where again, my technology knowledge helped a great deal about building reports and what can I do, what toolkit can I go to. And I went back and I did some small courses, and I worked through what's the best toolkit that I can use here. That led me to find that there were issues operationally within the business that I was working on, which kind of, downstream in finance, you can see every problem that the business has. So I went to operations and fixed their operational issues, once again, using technology. And then I worked in digital transformation itself, about rehauling their whole IT systems, putting in new systems, which was not DOS based and which was more which had more reporting and more analytics and things like that. From there, I started looking at technology delivery, and then to entrepreneurship. So at each stage of my life, I'd gone back and skilled and reskilled in a traditional sense. I've either gone back to university to do my master's, or when I decided to take up entrepreneurship, I went to Stanford to do my entrepreneurship. And what that gave me was frameworks, really concepts, frameworks, and more than anything else, a network of people who could be my mentor and support structure as I moved along. And these are things that whilst people are in universities to strongly consider, is about building mentors and a support structure that you'll need. Doesn't matter where you go for employment, when you hit a roadblock, when you're looking for a new job, when you're caught in a problem with your existing job, you're trying to solve some issues with your job and you don't know who to approach, a good mentoring circle is what you need. And then university gives you that cohort. You have professors, you have teachers, you have industry connections, and you make those. And then I'm here now building the technology for tomorrow. I specifically work in immersive tech, augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence, all combined together. Nice little cliched words. And I think humor is really important. So I look at some affirmations that I look at every day. There's some listed over there. Humor is really important to kind of take you through the hardships and some challenges that you'll have, whether it's personal or professional. And here's something that it happens in everyone's life. It's just a piece of awareness that it's my own personal snippet that I want to share with everybody. It's about the emotional journey of creating anything great, right? And it could be anything. And when you're talking about anything great, really not about just entrepreneurship. It can be anything. It's that big job that you want to do, or you want to write a book, or you want to make movies, or you want to set up a shop, or you want to set up an online presence or a website. Anything that you decide to do for yourself as a goal is something great, and I believe in that. And you start off and everything will be fun and games, and when it's an idea and it's an ideation, and then you kind of go through the thing, and when you start to do things, it gets harder and harder and harder, and that's when you hit the dark swamp of despair. And it's such a dark thing to say, but when we mean dark swamp of despair, it means you've kind of tried everything, nothing's working, and what you're going to do. And that's when you kind of hinge back on family and humor. So when I say family, it's a support structure of people around you, great people around you who love you and who will do things for you. But it's also about humor and people who make you laugh, and the ability to laugh at yourself when things go wrong. So those are some things, that gives you that belief, resilience, and persistence to kind of keep going on the upward. upward journey to success, whatever success might be for everybody who's on the other side of this call. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. If you want to link up to me, I'm Raji Iyer. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope ideally I would have loved to have had an engaging session. I would have been keen to hear from people who are listening on their ideas and thoughts and so any questions that they had. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful insights about emerging technologies. Being thankful and expressing your gratitude is an important part of being happy in life. Now I call upon Dr. Indrapriya ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, to propose the vote of thanks. Thankfulness is the best form of courtesy. On behalf of Guru Sri SHANTIVIJai Jain College for Women, I take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. I firstly thank the Almighty God whose grace has made the inauguration of 3 days virtual international conference successful. I express my heartfelt thanks to our guest of honor, Mrs. R.G. Raji Iyer, who has presided over the session and enabled us to acquire knowledge. Thank you, ma'am. I thank Mr. R. Narayanan Mohan, Senior Partner, Nagarajan and Swaminathan Chartered Accountants at Singapore, for guiding us in this session. Thank you, sir. I extend my thanks to our correspondent, Dr. Gautam P. Vaid, and our principal, Dr. N.K. Malati ma'am, for the guidance and support. I continue my hearty thanks to Dr. R. Gayatri ma'am, HOD, Department of Commerce, and all the faculty members for their constant support. I also express my special thanks to all the faculty who have joined us from GSS and other various institutions. Last but not least, it's my duty to thank all my fellow students for their participation. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again, all.
Cooperation.